nobody, and I want you to say yes or no to this, nobody is beyond salvation.
True.
So, Axel, 50 years from now, if God permits, if we're still around, he could have the gospel. He could hear the gospel. He could turn. Just like the thief on the cross.
But that's only if he's alive.
only if he's alive, yes.
If we take his life, that's why we don't have to consider that possibility. So
okay, 2025 starting off with a bang. A few of my favorite things to talk about, to be honest with you. And yes, as per usual, one of them is probing straight at you. And that's the one we're going to do first, right?
It's probing straight at me?
Yes. I want to challenge you a little bit.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Not wasting any time. Okay.
We're not wasting time. This is our first show back since the new year and the holidays. So, as we always say, we're back bigger and better. So that's what we're going to do starting with this show. So, Axel Rudakubana. I've said that so weirdly, considering I'm an African, you know.
Is that even an African name?
I don't know, but it should flow easier on my tongue, not so?
Should be in the key operative word.
Rudakubana. Axel Rudakubana. Yeah, Axel Rudakubana.
Right. Yeah.
So, for those of you that don't know, but I do hope that's not a lot of you. I hope everyone is up to date with this news. As Christians, it is our responsibility to know what's going on. Not so? That discussion is coming.
Maybe not. What? Yeah.
Right. So just a quick nutshell. He is an 18-year-old man, but at the time that he committed these crimes, he was a minor. He was below the age of 18.
Okay.
He murdered 3 young girls, one age of 9, the other one age of 6, and the other one, I can't get the last age of 10, I believe. Right? And then he planned to murder 8 more, all of them minors, really? Excluding 2 who were adults. Right? He got a taxi and went to an event where it was a Taylor Swift dance theme party. Got out of his taxi without paying the taxi apparently, and then went into this venue and then carried out his attacks. Initially, he had pleaded not guilty, from what I understand, but then did come back and pleaded guilty to all accounts. And on the 20th of January this year, he was sentenced to 52 years minimum in prison. So being that he's 18, he'll be about 60-something when he's coming out. Now, here is where I wanted us to talk about. Okay, I caught an interaction on GBN News of a woman who was adamant in saying that apparently it's going to cost the UK government 3 million to imprison this person. And they are looking at
Is this for the whole life?
You would have to check the facts there.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, but it is costing the taxpayer about 3 million just for him to be in prison. But I'm not sure whether it's the whole entire time or just to start off with, but I would go towards maybe the whole entire 52 years. Yeah. So the issue is, rather, this woman, which she was saying that is a waste of money. You know, let's bring back the death penalty, so to speak. You know, let's just get rid of him. You know, we're calling him a monster. We're seeing what he's done is so, you know, horrific and terrible. Why are we even wasting money on this person? So obviously, that then brought about this train of thought. You once sat on this podcast and stated that woe to him who dares comes against minds. You said it in your own words, yeah? I'm just saying, you come against minds, I ain't gonna be responsible for what happens. I think it's quite fitting as well that we're talking about masculinity in our big topic today and what it means to be a man, because one can argue, you know, forgiveness should come into it. But for now, without going too far, here's what I want to know. From a Christian point of view, we do know that in the days of the law, it was an eye for an eye, yeah, a tooth for a tooth, you know? People were being stoned to death and so on and so forth as direction from God. So this wasn't people sitting there thinking, our way of life should be this. These were instructions that God gave them. This is how you're going to live. Post that, we know a good example is when the woman was found in adultery, and rightly so, they were like, the law states that we ought to stone her to death. She's been found in the act. and Jesus knelt down or bent down, squatted down, and started writing on the ground, saying, "He who has no sin, let him cast the first stone." Long story short, we are looking at this forgiveness aspect of it. Forgive and forget. So what I want to know, bringing up the debate that is interesting me here, to see what Christians think when there's a crime that's been committed that is as horrific as this, straightforward as this, let's say, God forbid, but let's bring in that aspect of minds in there. Are you at the forefront of saying definitely let's off of his head?
Well, first,
or is it right for us to, in our grief, in our anger, if I can say that, to advocate for that?
Well, maybe an argument could be made to say that maybe not in our grief, in our anger, but if the question was should the conversation be discussed,
okay.
I'll say yes.
So let me be fair.
If we're talking about in grief, in anger, fine.
Yes.
Someone could say nothing should ever be done in grief and in anger.
Fine.
But if we're talking about should it be a conversation, I think that's a conversation that...
Okay. So let me be fair then to both you and our viewers and say, let's take away the grief and anger. We're looking at the justice part of it.
Okay.
Yeah. A crime has been committed, horrific crime has been committed. Now we're looking at crime and punishment. We're looking at justice for the grieving families. Are we advocating for the death penalty? Are we advocating for executing this person as Christians? 3 young children, and he planned to kill 6 more and 2 adults.
Personally,
Chinn, we are on Offbeat to give our personal views.
Yes. Yeah. So the only reason I preface that is because I know that I don't know how accurately my view reflects the Christian view, but I want to say it's quite in alignment.
Okay.
Which is, I'm not opposed to the death penalty.
Okay.
I'm not. In fact, I do think there are certain circumstances where, an argument could be made to say, guys, let's just rid the world of such monsters. And keep it moving. Okay, so because what I'm thinking is in the New Testament, in the new Christian way of life, is there anything that prohibits the death sentence? Because this is not done out of revenge or anger.
What about the understanding of the fact that God is the one that brings justice? Why can't we leave it to God?
Well, by that logic, why are we putting them in prison? Because prison is a form of punishment for someone's action. By that logic,
but we're not taking their life. Okay, fine. What about this? It is God that gives and takes life. We are not making that decision to say that, yes, of course, we have to separate them from society because they've broken the rules, that kind of thing. And that's been seen throughout history and things like that, even biblical times. But I think we do have to acknowledge that we can't just walk carelessly towards taking people's lives. So I think if we cannot put it in a separate category to all other forms of punishments, then what kind of people are we? So if we look at it from that point of view, should we not leave that to God?
See, I hear what you're saying. What you're saying makes sense.
That's when people say that, I'm like, conversation done. When someone says, I hear what you're saying and it makes sense.
No.
But
no. Okay.
Okay, so in your thoughts, let me throw this last one to you, yeah? And then you respond. Let's flip it. Nobody, and I want you to say yes or no to this, nobody is beyond salvation.
True.
So, Axel, 50 years from now, if God permits, if we are still around, he could have the gospel. He could hear the gospel. He could turn. Just like the thief on the cross.
That's only if he's alive.
only if he's alive, yes.
If we take his life, that's why we don't have to consider that possibility. So, I mean...
Sorry.
Okay. I
can't believe you say that.
I will be fair. You make valid points. And I think the point of the fact that nobody is beyond salvation, I think that's probably the point that I have to give the most pause to, because it is feasible that, you know, he goes in prison, maybe has a few bad years, he talks to the right person, finds Jesus, has a come to Jesus moment, and the Bible does say the person who's been forgiven the most loves the most. So
they will never undo their crime.
It's a Paul situation, isn't it? Like Paul was complicit in the murder of Stephen, but then ended up becoming one of the biggest church's advocates. So you make a fair point, and I think that's probably something that I have to consider in my position of being not pro death sentence, but I'm not against it. But that's probably a fair point that I probably do need to consider. Yeah.
I did have a last point that I wanted to make on the matter, but to be fair with you, you finished me up with that. But if we kill him, so let's wrap it up this way then. What are you saying to the Christendom? What are we saying to the Christendom in regards to these kind of matters?
I think you're gonna have to wrap it up because I'm conflicted. I'm conflicted. What are you saying? What do you think?
I think the Bible puts it best when we explore the fact that we can talk about faith all day long, but until we are put in a position to actually practice that, then do we know faith? And I think that works also with things like kindness, forgiveness, patience, you know, loving your enemies. You know, if there's no bigger enemy than somebody that took yours. You see what I mean? The feelings you are going to have towards them, what is God going to be directly saying to you about those feelings you're having about that person? You know, it is in that moment that you're gonna need to gather up everything you know as Christianity and actually put into practice, and it's not going to be easy. So I think my stance is clear. My stance is we don't justify or excuse these sort of things, but if we view it from a point of nobody is beyond saving, we don't know the plans that God has for that person, I think for me, I would not advocate for killing somebody. I would not advocate for taking that step. If it is you're not going to like this, but if it is the will of God that they die, they will die. Yeah, they will die. You know, and not everybody is going to be saved. Sorry to say that. But then that's not our call to make.
Yeah,
you see what I mean? So it doesn't mean that we're going to feel any less of the emotions and the feelings toward that person, but it does mean that we're going to need to put into practice what we believe. Why can't we forgive that person? Let's think about, look at it from this way, right? Because in terms of masculinity, this is what has been playing on my mind, which we're going to come into. But if we look at Christ, he forgave those that crucified him. He forgave those that beat him. The very same people
That's different though. He was here to save the world.
And we are called to be like Christ. We are called to pick up our
like Christ, we're not dying for the world's sins.
We're not dying for the world's sins, but we are dying to ourselves. So we are dying still, you know? So that we are dying to live like Christ. So that means we're going to have to embody what he embodied, what he did. So and let's not forget, God is not going to put us through these things. God forbid we don't go through them. But if we do, it's not just for bunts. You know, he wants us to go through them so that we can come out on the other side refined, you know.
Yeah, no, to be fair, you make very valid points. You do.
But I'm not saying that it's going to be any easy whatsoever. Trust me, I've learned that we can talk all day long, but the feelings are different. Where when you are bubbling up inside, it does take a strong community to keep you in the straight and narrow. Otherwise, I will pick up my gun as well and be like, where's Axel?
No, I'm talking about vengeance. It's always in the context of justice. So I'm not talking about vengeance as in you go and do the vengeance yourself.
Goes hand in hand.
But no.
I know.
But yeah, okay, fine. Okay, what's next? That one's an interesting one.
All right, so let's talk about Donald Trump. Now, it's no secret to our regular listeners that I do have a bit of a soft spot for Donald Trump. Now,